Good evening, everyone. Just want to thank all of you, everyone here, for being here together. It is so important for us to be able to spend some time together as a community, just to be together. We also have, there is important information for us to share, for us to talk about. But before anything else, it is important as a tzibur, as we gather together, to pray, to daven on behalf of those of us within our community and beyond our community and around the globe who are in need of a refuah. I'd like to start with a parak of Tehillim. We'll say parak Kuf Chaf Aleph. Ask everyone to please join in. Shir Lamalot Esa Einai Eleharim Me'ayin Yavo Ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai Yosei Shamayim v'aretz. Al yitein lamod raglecha al yanum shomrecha. Hinei lo yanum v'lo yishan shomer Yisrael. Adonai shomrecha, Adonai tzilcha, yad yaminecha. Yomam Hashemesh lo yakeka v'yareach b'layla. Adonai yishmarcha mikol ra, yishmor es nafshecha. Adonai yishmor tzeischa uvarecha, me'ata v'ad olam. We are tonight just completing 3 weeks into this turbulent and unsettling time. And over the course of these 3 weeks, we've had an amazing response on the part of so many. And there are so many people to thank for helping our community come together and to grow and establish a sense of normalcy through these challenges. Tonight, I actually want to just say 2 thank yous to begin, and that is to the faculties of SAR Academy and SAR High School, and to the students of SAR Academy and SAR High School. I know that Rabbi Krause will express that on his own when he has an opportunity to speak, but this, the way that our community has come together and has been able to learn and have school and set ourselves up under these circumstances is a tribute to the dedication and commitment of our faculty and to our students who have just shown up because they want to be together, to support each other, and to learn together. Just to say a brief couple of words about life at the high school now. We have, over the course of these weeks, gotten ourselves into something of a pattern, which we are now at the point where we're having school days that are pretty stable. And I think that that is healthy and really important. School days start at 10 a.m. They go to 3:30 or 4:30. Over the course of these weeks, we've been adding different programming. We say Tehillim every day. There are options for tefillah. Our activity periods are coming into play, after school activities. Our teachers are working on professional development. We are, in every way that we can, having school function and building sense of community together. Earlier today and over the course of the next few days, as we come to recognize that this is our new normal, and I want to just take a moment to express 3 goals that we are saying to ourselves out loud and communicating to faculty and to students. And that is that as we spend our time together in this virtual classroom, there are 3 things that stand out for us. Number 1 is to establish a sense of community within our classroom, that our students and faculty should have an opportunity to get together, of course, to learn, but with concern and care for emotional well-being, to be able to connect with friends and with faculty to establish that sense of community. 2, to make sure that throughout all of this, as unstable and quickly changing as it is, that sense of routine and normalcy that comes with having school every day is a very important thing to have. And finally, recognizing that we should be learning and growing, and that there's gratification and satisfaction that comes with that, while also recognizing that this isn't going to be a regular year. We don't exactly know for the remainder of this year if or when we might be able to come back to school. And that is all of us doing the best that we can together to continue to grow and to learn. The plan that we are putting in place is our thinking over the next couple of weeks, 2 weeks, and a little bit after Pesach, with an understanding that while we know that things could get worse than they are now, and it is our hope that they get better, we will do our best to be responsive to the needs of students, faculty, and families as we go through all of this together. And I want to just close with a thank you, last thank you to the unbelievable medical team and team of volunteers that have been helping in so many ways. They have been a real lifeline for our community, and I want to express hakarat hatov to all of them for all of the time that they have put in on behalf of really each and every one of us in so many ways. And in that spirit, I express thanks and want to hand it off to Dr. Josh Rocker, whose voice has been one of calm and such important information over the course of these past few weeks. Josh, we're really grateful. My pleasure to introduce Dr. Josh Rocker.
Thank you very much. So I just want to echo the words that you just said. I really want to show appreciation to the SAR leadership, to the Medical Advisory Board, also all the other individuals who have been helping, receiving the phone calls, dictating the phone calls so that we could review them, and a lot of people who are just doing little acts of kindness everywhere. It is enormously helpful, and thank you. I also want to give appreciation to the medical leadership, sort of in all the hospitals in our community, and to the people who are working in the hospitals, the doctors and nurses, the environmental staff who's cleaning up constantly. And then also I want to give a shout out to the mental health workers who right now are getting some calls, but the longer this lasts, the more important it will be for them to be looped into what's going on. So the message I want to give over today is a little bit about the seriousness of what's going on. I think, and I've mentioned this before potentially, is the emotional response and the intellectual response of reading the paper and seeing what's going on in our community. I think the intellectual response is trying to calculate things, trying to estimate how bad it's going to be, looking at the numbers. But the numbers don't really, I think, make as much of an emotional impact on us. I can tell you, as someone who has been planning for this for the last month, what I've seen in the last few days has had a dramatic emotional impact on me. Seeing the changes in the hospital, seeing the increased number at a very rapid rate, exactly as we predicted, but it just feels completely different when it actually is happening at you, in front of you and at your space. Many epidemiologists, the governor, have mentioned that they believe that anywhere between 50 to 80% of the population are going to get infected with this virus. That does not mean that everyone is going to be significantly sick. We know that around 80% of the people have very mild illness or are asymptomatic. So it's important to know that when we start, and I'm sure at this point everyone probably knows it's a 1 degree of separation or 2 degrees of separation of knowing someone who has been infected. That is going to increase significantly over the next few days to weeks to up to a month. We will all have intimate contacts with people who are sick, who are having symptoms, or who are hospitalized. And it's scary. Talking to people, as I did this week, who are in the hospital on oxygen. These are young people, older people. They're questioning lots of things, and they're scared. All of them recovered well, but it is a very significant emotional time right now. I want to talk about the seriousness of this situation and the seriousness of what, again, people have been talking, the flattening of the curve. That is a non-trivial issue. And we are seeing firsthand what's going on in the hospitals. So I work at Cohen Children's Medical Center, which is on the Queens-Long Island border. It is attached to Long Island Jewish Hospital. And so ironically, the PEDS ER is quiet. PEDS emergency departments across the city, across the region are quiet. For a few reasons. Influenza and RSV, the typical viruses we see now, aren't spreading because kids are staying away from each other. And we're not seeing the typical sports injuries that we usually see because kids aren't playing sports. We're still seeing some lacerations because kids are bumping into things in the house. But it is relatively quiet, and people are fearful to come to the hospital. And yes, we are diagnosing several cases of corona a day, but the kids aren't sick. We're having very, very, very few admissions for coronavirus. The story is, it's like black and white on the adult side. On the adult side, we're having very significant number of admissions to the hospital for people who are sick with coronavirus. Looking at the trends, people have looked at Italy and have compared us to Italy, and we are following trends very much like Italy. We know that Italy instituted very strict quarantining around 2.5 weeks ago, and potentially we're seeing some effects from that now. And as I had mentioned in the past, by instituting those strict regulations about interactions, we won't see that effect for 2 to 3 weeks. And potentially we are seeing that now with Italy. We need a few more days to really determine that. But that's my message of the day. Now is the time, right? It already looks as if it is growing very, very significantly. And if that happens, it will be frightful for the hospitals. Frightful for a few reasons. Number one is the number of patients coming in is very significant. I'm not so concerned about, because people are saying we're not going to have ventilators, we're not going to say, that right now. No, I think we will be able to support things. But as the families come in, as the patients come in who are sick, the doctors also start getting infected as well. And so as volume goes up of people who are sick, the people taking care of them goes down. And then you have other people who are substituting in. That's not a great situation for anyone. So we have to take this very, very seriously. And so when people say, well, I'm practicing social distancing, but I break the rules a little bit here and there, please. The risk, the risk to you may be small. The risk to the health system is very large. If we could spread this illness out over the next several weeks, to months versus having large spikes right now, it will make a huge difference for the burden on the healthcare system. Actually, at this mine, did we find Gita?
Yes, doctor, we're ready.
Okay, so I wanted to give the camera over to Dr. Gita Lisker, who is a pulmonologist and an intensive care doctor. She is in the trenches. She knows better than anyone else right now what is going on. I just want her to speak a little bit of it. Go ahead.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hi everybody. Not here to scare people, but I'm mostly here to be very realistic. So I am one of, like Josh said, I'm one of the pulmonary and critical care doctors at North Shore and LIJ. Arguably, probably one of the most prepared institutions at this moment. I was on call this weekend. I'm on every day. I cannot stress to you everything that you're hearing about how serious this is, because people are asking me, is it as serious as they say they are? Is the media overblowing it? To which my answer was, I don't even have time to watch the media. it is more serious than anything that we honestly imagined in our imaginations. It's unprecedented. I mean, I've been doing this, I don't know, 16 years. I have colleagues that have been doing this for 40. There has never been anything in the history of our lives that has come close to this. I may be called to see a pulmonary consult, and I don't even have time to see the patient because they're just getting intubated and put on a ventilator. Now, obviously, this is not everybody, and I just want to remind everybody that, but our ICUs are overflowing. Each hospital has already opened up 3 full ICUs. We're going to a 4th. We have over 100 ICU patients alone just between North Shore and LIJ. That does not include the rest of our hospital systems. Patients are rapidly decompensating. The ones who are sick, I mean, not the ones who are in the hospital, many of them are rapidly decompensating and just getting intubated and putting on ventilators in such rapid succession that sometimes we just can't even keep up. This is the most serious thing that I can tell you. These patients are staying ventilated for a long time. We're pulling out literally every trick that we have in our book, obviously sedating them, medically paralyzing them, proning them, which literally means flipping the bed upside down, putting them on ECMO, which is, oxygenating your blood outside of your body. We have clinical trials for drugs that were approved to start a clinical trial in less than 4 days, which is something that never happens. It's only gone through that quickly because of the risk of this emergency. We have people we are using, and if anybody listened to the president's press conference about an hour and a half ago, we are using the hydroxychloroquine, we are using the Zithromax. You may have heard him say they are by absolutely no means wonder drugs. People are getting, the ones who are decompensating very quickly and staying sick for a very long time. Yes, there are many that are older. That is definitely a risk factor. That's always a risk factor for any virus. But anyone on this chat who thinks that you're immune because you're 40 or 50, again, it's not the case. We definitely see risk factors in people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s with very common medical problems, people that you don't think of yourself as having a medical condition. So people with high blood pressure, people with diabetes, people who are overweight, and I don't mean morbidly, I just mean, people who are somewhat overweight with high blood pressure, with diabetes, with coronary, artery disease. These are the most common conditions. These seem to be risk factors for people who are getting hospitalized and getting into the ICU, and this applies to many people. Obviously, people who are on immunosuppressive drugs, are at risk. We have 2 pregnant women in our ICUs, so do not think that just because you're 25 and you're pregnant, you are immune to this. You are not. I mean, thank God they are doing very well. And we do have 1 or 2 actually in their 20s or 30s with no medical history. Again, is this the rare case? Yes, but it is out there, and I'm just telling you this, that if anyone thinks that what Josh just said, or what everybody is bombarding you with about staying put and staying home, and don't think that you're above the rule, if you think it doesn't apply to you, you're wrong. I will tell you, we are not Italy, we are not China. We have enough vents. We have right now almost 600 ventilators on backup in the Northwell Health System. We're not going to run out of ventilators. We're opening up beds wherever we can. We have a very robust healthcare system. Like Josh said, the healthcare workers are going to drop as more of us get exposed, and then we'll go out for some time, and then you'll have substitutes until we get better, and then you bring us back in. But the main thing to slow all of this down is to slow the amount that are happening at once. So Pesach is coming. I saw there were a lot of questions. Can I go? Just no. The answer is no. It's very hard. Don't forget, there's no visitors right now in the hospital. You know how hard that is? I have a 95-year-old fully with it man who's probably going to die, but right now he's awake and alert, and his family cannot come see him. We have no visitors allowed. It's hard for the patients. It's trying times for everybody. Stay with your immediate family on Pesach and don't get together. If there's an extraordinary circumstance, that should be done on a case-by-case basis, but it's a slippery slope when you start to say, oh, well, I'm going to quarantine for 14 days and they're going to quarantine and then we're going to get together, and just don't do it. I cannot stress the severity of the situation enough. We're going to be okay. We're going to have the equipment. Like I said, our healthcare system is great, but this applies to every single person on this call. And if you're a kid, don't be stupid. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Dr. Lisker. So, I mean, what she is saying is concerning, is scary, is frightening. I sent out a text to the medical group for SAR and saying, guys, I plan on going out tonight and being a little bit strict and a little bit harsh. I want to make sure I have all of your consent with that. And these are the responses I got. Absolutely agree. It's now or never. Yet be strict. Agree. Couldn't agree more. These are the people who are working in the hospitals, and they are saying what they're feeling and what they're seeing. So again, everyone is doing calculations in their mind. What is the risk of me really going to the store? What is the risk of me? And the risks are all small. All of them are small, but small for everyone making the same decision to be mildly lenient, ultimately for the hospital means a big risk. So it is hard. It is challenging. It is hard for all of us to have to stay in the home. There are lots of very funny, videos from Israel about what it's like to stay in the home. But I encourage everyone to watch those. But it is the most important thing right now. Now, another thing that people may be thinking is, listen, if I get it now, at least I'm immune and I'll be fine for the next 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. And their answer is, you're right, but the hospitals can't handle it right now. So it's not, again, only about you. The decision-making is all about the public health right now. And the burden on the hospitals is very significant. Whether, so period. There are a number of questions that people sent beforehand, and I want to address a number of them. Any questions that have to do, that are detailed medical questions, I'm not going to cover. I'm not going to talk about medications. Geeta mentioned the risk factors that we talked about. One of the things that people are asking are, what are the symptoms? We all heard about the fever and the cough, and that seems to not totally be, the only things, and that's true. We know that, fever is can be a later finding. You may initially start off with a sore throat, a little bit of a cough. We're also seeing GI symptoms such as vomiting or diarrhea. But again, still most of the symptoms are going to be, having to do with a cough. Could you have a runny nose? I think in the beginning we were like, oh, you have a runny nose. No, you could. So the symptoms could be almost anything. There has been more chatter about people who are losing certain senses, such as taste and smell. That has definitely been mentioned by patients who have it as well. Tends to be more in the younger than in the older, not in the children, but like 20, 30, 40-year-olds. And we're definitely seeing it there. And usually what happens is you get it, you don't feel well, and then it's 5 to 7 days. You may have a day where you feel a little bit better, but generally at around day 7 to 10, and the fevers last for a long time. Generally at around day 7 to 10 is where, if it's going to happen, decompensation occurs. And what we talk about in regards to people having difficulty breathing, the questions we ask, because it's, if the distance that you walk, to the kitchen, if you're walking upstairs and you're noticing that you're having a hard time breathing during that time, that's a critical time period to get doctors involved. To speak to your doctor. If it's really significant at that point, just get to the hospital. Before we mentioned, maybe contact the doctors beforehand, say that, you'll be coming in, you're, potential risk for COVID. At this point, every single medical institution is prepared to receive someone who is potentially COVID positive. Again, there's a lot of fear, and I don't want people to leave this with absolute anxiety, but I do want people to leave this with a significant amount of concern. Many, many, many people get this, and their symptoms, abate after a while, and then they feel fine. So just be aware of that. If you get a fever right now, If it was 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, I think when we initially had these conversations, the risk of having flu was still fairly high. We have seen the flu numbers drop very quickly. And in pediatrics, we've also seen other viruses that kids frequently get. Those are still present, but not nearly as high as they were a few weeks ago. So, at this point, if you have fever, especially it's for several days, with my like body aches, sore throat, the odds of you having coronavirus are very high. And the question that people are asking is, but I can't get a test. If I can't get a test, how do I know? At this point, we're saying, assume yes. Assume that you have it. And it's not going to change your management in regards to how you're going to take care of yourself, but it will change the way you behave within your home. So if you are having symptoms that are consistent with coronavirus, the fever, the body aches, headache, sore throat, cough, I would at that point isolate yourself within your home. And what I would do now, if you don't have those symptoms, think about and plan what it means to isolate yourself in your home. Plan it out with your family. What would we do? How would we eat? Where would we go to the bathroom? Who's going to do this with the kids? I visit my grandmother. Who's going to do that? So, I do all those planning things now, because when you're sick and you're sort of in a little bit of the crisis mode and you have the emotions of, oh my gosh, this could be serious. That's not a time where you're going to be thinking the most clearly. So do the planning now. A question that some people have asked is, well, if everyone is positive in the house, how should we handle that? If everyone's positive in the house, then it's fine. Then you don't have to isolate yourselves all individually. You can be together obviously I wouldn't be sharing cups and everything like that, but you all have it, and that's fine. People are asking, when is life going to get back to normal? And the answer is, we're not sure. Right? There have been various predictions that have said that we are going to peak in May. Some have said in June, and some have said that this is going to go way on into August. These are all mathematical models, and it all depends on quarantining, how well it's done, and various other factors. So we're not exactly sure, but a lot of things that people are saying is, prepare for the marathon, not for the little race. This is going to last a while. Yes, think about the next mile. This is what marathon runners do. They think about each mile. So think about what you're going to do for the week, how you're going to accomplish everything that week, but anticipate many, many, many weeks of this. I expect people to have more sort of social isolation insofar as seeing physically other people. Get used to that, because this is going to be here for a while. Pesach. The answer is no. I'm sorry. No matter what variation you want to say that it's okay, the answer is generally no. Pesach should be with people in your home, and unfortunately, gathering with other people will just increase the risks. Additionally, in Pesach, which is around 3 weeks away, we are going to be 3 weeks deeper into this, and it is going to be much more within the community and spreading. I think we also may have had a bias where SAR community was hit fairly significantly early on, and there may be in some a false sense of like, hey, it came and I'm okay, so it's not so bad. That's because few individuals had it, and thus they were only able to spread it to few individuals. If it comes back around, to our communities, which it certainly will, it will not be a few individuals. It will be many, many, many individuals, and the risk will be much higher, and the rapid rate of transmission will be much higher. So that's something to be aware of. Having to catch or having play with other people, guys, I'm telling you right now, and I apologize, I don't want to be sort of the harbinger of this news. I would refrain from all of these interactions for the next 2-3 weeks. We have to get a grip on this. If we don't, it's going to be a major problem. If I'm positive, when can I return to just normal social distancing? Now that's different for healthcare workers and other workers. And there's been, initially the CDC said that you had to be tested negative twice, 1 day apart to make sure that you're fine. The data on shedding, some people have said 3 days after symptoms end, but that's symptoms end all except cough. So if you still have fever, if you still have body aches, if you still have sore throat, that's still considered a symptom. A cough, we know sometimes coughs can be a little bit residual even after viruses really have completely ended. So we're seeing, again, some people say, some data has talked about 3 days after symptoms completely stopping. Then some people are talking about 7 days and some people are talking about 14 days. So there's no right answer to this. Obviously, if we had a rapid test that could be easily done, that would really help us. We do know that some people could shed for up to 3 weeks after the symptoms are over. So we want to minimize the exposure to other people. So I would, after a week, I think it's probably safe to sort of, still be within the home. I would not go out, at this point. Is walking safe? Getting outside is important. There are so many aspects of this illness right now that is, and I'm talking about the medical, aspects, but there's the mental health aspects of things. And if you only stay in your home and if you're only on a screen, you are going to go bonkers. So I think it is extremely important to get outside. Now, the issue is when you're outside, we all live in different communities. Some of us live in the city, some of us live in the suburbs, some of us live a little bit more distant. Try not to interact with people. We talk about the 6-foot rule. That's great. Extend it to a 10-foot rule. Be that guy who's being like, you know what, we'll talk a little bit later, not now. Really keep a distance. So that's about going outside and walking. Very healthy. Vitamin D, sunshine, it will change your mood. It is important. Am I immune after I get it? And the data sounds pretty convincing that you probably are. It's not 1000%, but that's generally what we think. So the question is, can I then get it again within the same season? Generally, we think no. In regards, if there's a mutation like there is with flu, could this come back next year? Potentially. And if it comes back, we have no clue what it's going to look like. It may come back and affect one person. It may come back, be equally as vicious, or it may come back and be very, very mild, or it may not come back at all. People ask about elevators. I live in an apartment. Should I take elevators? It doesn't matter what you take, just don't touch things, right? If you take the stairs and your hands are on the railing, it's just as if you were taking the elevator and pressing the buttons. Use a shinui, use something to press the buttons, or as you're getting into the elevator. Use an umbrella, use something else. Don't use your hands. And that goes for doorknobs, common spaces. People are like, oh, I'm getting together, but we're 6 distance apart and we're sitting in the common space of the lobby. Okay, but who sat in that chair before you? How long ago were they there? Do you know where they sat? Were they not? You don't know. So, and we can go crazy over all of the, potentials. Wash your hands constantly and really try to minimize any touching to the face. I think all of us are experiencing this reality where we realize, oh, we just touched our face. And when you realize that you probably touched it 4 other times before you realized it. So just try to focus on not doing it, but even best, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. Soap and water, and if you have any disinfectant, that's great as well. Limited testing. So people are asking, like, there's limited testing, that's horrible, I'm not gonna know. Or should I be tested? The Department of Health came out with a recommendation on Friday. This is the New York City Department of Health, saying we no longer recommend anyone testing unless they are a hospitalized patient, right? So the reason for that is a fewfold. One, by you going, so at testing centers, the rate of positivity is around 40%, right? So if you go, the odds of you being positive are around 40%, just because that's, the group of people that are there. So You put healthcare workers at risk. You put everyone that you came in contact with as you, went out to go to, this center to get tested at risk. And what did you learn? You learned something which you kind of already knew based upon your symptoms. So you're putting healthcare workers at risk. Those healthcare workers have to use the term is PPE, personal protective equipment, which is the mask, the goggles, the gloves and everything, which they shouldn't be using. They shouldn't be doing the test. That equipment should be available to the doctors in the hospital. And then another crazy thing is, a week or two ago, we were talking about testing and how it's limited because it's a slow test. We don't have everything. We can now do the test quickly. At our institution, Northwell, they could do 1,000 tests a day, but we're running out of swabs. Because we're running out of swabs, testing someone out on the street who isn't feeling that terrible is a waste versus testing someone who I know needs isolation or needs different care when they're in the hospital. So we are not recommending anyone get tested. And at this point, if you feel that you have symptoms, assume yourself to be positive. Pets. I don't know a tremendous amount about pets, but if you are walking on the street and other people are petting your dog, they are transmitting whatever they have on their hand to your dog. And I'm not concerned about the dog getting it and then the dog giving it to you. It's the germs on the dog that you are then going to snuggle up with, and then you are going to rub. So it's not like the dog is giving it to you as much as they're just the carrier. They're just the vector that's sending it to you. So try not to have other people pet your pet when you're out. I was told to give a plug to the Rockefeller Study. Any study that people are doing at this point, either I know Jacoby is doing a study at Northwell, they're doing a study on medications. Rockefeller is doing a study in regards to serum samples, is extraordinarily helpful. So the Rockefeller Study is those who are corona positive, contacting them and potentially getting some blood samples. Anytime that we can get more data will give us more information on how to treat this in the future. I think that's all I want to say. I want to focus also on mental health again. I mentioned it in the beginning. I mentioned in the middle. I want to mention again, finding practices for your day-to-day routine is going to be extremely important. Getting up in the morning and, if you want to have a practice of, whatever it is, exercise, going outside, with significant distancing, or picking up a hobby. We have time, we're home, reading books, getting the things that you want to do. Very, very important for yourselves. And also still connecting to other people. Communicating via Zoom, communicating via your phones, very important. Reaching out to people who you don't think others are reaching out to, very important. And also, I want to end with something that happened in Israel. I don't remember what day, but at 6 p.m. a few days ago, it was sort of medical health, or not medical, it was healthcare workers appreciation. People just went outside and started clapping. So at 6 o'clock, I think that's good for the spirit. I think it certainly raised the spirit of the doctors and the nurses and other people working in the hospital. And I think it makes people feel good that they know that they're contributing to others as well. So that's all I'm going to say for right now. If there are other questions, you can certainly come back to me. But that's it. It's a serious note, but that's what it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rocker, and thank you, Dr. Lisker, and thank you to the team of doctors who have been so incredibly helpful after very, very long days. We deeply appreciate it. Sorry, Josh, just it's lighting up. Just a question about touching mail, handling mail and packages and delivered food. Just a second about that.
So that's complicated. I'm not an expert on this. So whatever I say, someone could be like, oh no. So it's use some seichel, like people who are wearing gloves. Don't think like your mail carrier who's wearing gloves. That's nothing, right? They're not changing it, every so often and washing their hands. Gloves are helpful for doctors so that we don't get what you have on you. But after I see you, I take my gloves and I throw them away and then I wash my hands. So I'm not at risk. Someone who wears gloves all day, it's just like having hands. Like it's no different. So by having gloves on, it's not like, oh, they have gloves, everything's fine. it's no different. So someone asked me the other day, someone was going to send them supplies from an area where they think people may have been contaminated. What should we do? I said, don't open it for a few days. We know that this virus can only last for so long on certain surfaces. So when it comes to, this may sound ridiculous, but when it comes to mail, maybe let it sit for, a day or two before you open it. That will certainly be the safest. Another thing is open it and then wash your hands immediately afterwards. So as long as you touch something, it's fine. People are like, I wear gloves in the grocery store. Great. And what do you do in your house when you take your groceries out of the bags? Are you wearing gloves then? How about when you take it out of the cabinet like 40 minutes later? So it's just wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands.
Got it. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. And again, we will have more opportunities for you to share your questions and hopefully to get back to you in the different forums that we have available. There are many people from this community, and we're connected in so many ways. And we've been together, as Rabbi Hartstark said, this is week 4 for us. And there's one person, really one family that's been quietly inspiring to me, and I think to all of us, going through really, really a very, very difficult time personally, and then feeling connected to all of this, and at the same time focused on the health of their family and of Lawrence Garbuz. So first of all, I want to say that of course we wish a continued refuah shlema to Lawrence and to all those who are ill. And secondly, Adina, who's going to come on in a moment, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for being so strong. I want to say thank you for being so forthright and direct. I spoke to you the morning that we closed school that morning, and you took my call at 6:30 in the morning, and you gave me all the information that we needed to have in order to keep our kids safe, and that didn't have to happen. So thank you for that, and thank you for being so articulate a couple weeks ago and last week again. And when I called you last night, I didn't know if you were going to agree, but I just thought that this would be meaningful to our community to be able to hear from you. First of all, to collectively express our karatov to you and to your family and to Lawrence, and to ask you to share some of your thoughts with this community.
Thank you, Rabbi Krauss. I'm not used to doing this, but I'm gonna do the best I can. Hi all. First and foremost, I want to thank all of you for joining in today to have a shared community experience in these trying times. I want to thank you all personally for davening and wishing Lawrence well. I have no doubt all of your positive energy and prayers have contributed to his recovery. SAR has been part of our family for over 20 years, and we cannot thank them enough for their support. I was thinking that just a month ago, what each of us was doing. I was in Israel setting up my daughter in her new life. We were all going to and from work and on the roller coaster of life. And now we've all stopped short. And boy, did it stop short for me and my family. Like a whirlwind, I got off the plane to a husband with pneumonia, and by the end of the week, he was struggling to breathe. And it was scary and terrifying. But that's not the end of the story. We're not at the end of the story yet, but we're coming to a very good part of it. Lawrence is out of the ICU. They took him off all oxygen today, and he walked across the room. The doctors are thrilled with his progress, and so am I. And with God's help and Lawrence's tenacity, our goal is to have him home for Pesach. We're so lucky, and I feel the many blessings despite the many scary times my family has endured. My thinking was that while the world feels like it's reeling out of control, while I can only pray to Hashem and hope for good medical care, I must control what I can. I can control what was said about us, sort of. I could control my perspective. I could control what I modeled for my children. I wanted them to feel safe in a time of uncertainty. I assured them that no matter what, they are loved and they will be okay. I assured them that their dad loves them more than anything else, and he is a fighter. My kids know that to be true, and so do I. So I believe. I refuse to believe in the what ifs that could go wrong. I only heard today he was better than yesterday, and the next day he was better than that. One day at a time. So we've waited and we've waited. And that for me was the hardest part, because if patience is a virtue, I certainly have none. The next hardest thing for me was not being by his side. How do you wake up alone? Seems so cruel, but in the end, it doesn't matter because he's okay. As I wrote before, I waited for the day when I could explain to him what has transpired, and I waited for the day when we could laugh together. So that day has come, albeit on FaceTime, and I know we will be okay. And knowing that gives me faith that others like him will be okay too. So I have faith. Also, I cannot thank enough, and I cannot say enough about how blessed we are to live in a place that affords us top medical care, top-rate medical care. I will never take the ability to have ventilators and expert medical care nearby for granted ever again. And don't forget to please be super kind to all medical staff who are out on the front lines with the same unknowns that we have many of, and whom don't have the added benefit of being home with their family. I don't want to suggest that we are the only ones suffering at this time. So many are, and I pray for us all. And it doesn't minimize that so many of you have had to show stellar patience being cooped up with your young children. I can't imagine getting through that. But I bet in the end, when you ask your kids about the time the world stopped because of Corona, they ironically will think of it as good times. They're not stressed about work, and hopefully they don't understand the health scare. What they do know is that they're getting much more mommy and daddy time than they ever had before. So savor this time with your children and your family, as we've been reminded how precious it is. We're now approaching Pesach, and getting ready is daunting and is a lot of work. But my guess is that it will be one of the most meaningful Pesachs we will ever have. We now cherish our freedom. We cherish the ability to buy whatever we want, and we cherish the ability to go out where and when we want. We even cherish toilet paper. So enjoy your children, enjoy your family, enjoy your good health, and I and my family most certainly will. So control what you can and have positive thoughts, and most importantly, please be safe and healthy. Thank you.
Adina, thank you very, very much for sharing and for bringing the community into your lives. Again, we continue to be thinking of you and of Lawrence and of your kids, and we hope that and we know that you will have a wonderful and meaningful Pesach together. We wish that for you, and thank you.
Thank you
For inspiring us. I want to take a moment. And Adina, you haven't seen this, but you can maybe go back on the chat. Everyone's wishing you beautiful things, really beautiful things.
Thank
can
you.
back. Ignore me and just look at the things that they're writing, because that's more meaningful. Hakarat Hatov again to our incredible faculty, to the parents, and to the students. We're all equal partners in all of this, and working together to keep each other strong. I speak to the ELC every Friday. And I've been doing that from here for the last couple of weeks. And this week I started, I think it will become a new minhag of asking them what their highlight of the week was. And it's really nice. You know, it's a weird thing. There's nothing normal about what's going on, but every kid, many kids in that room were able to share highlights with family, highlights with teachers, highlights of learning, things that were fun and meaningful and memorable to them. And I think we have to keep that in mind. So whether it's the regular classes that thank God are going on, or the concerts that are strange with some guy sitting out front and, singing to 400 people, and hopefully more of that, or assemblies on the steps, or Havdalah together. Hakarat Tov to all of the people that are making that happen, and to all of you for being part of what's really an incredible community. Just a couple of quick things. There's a survey going out to Academy parents again, I think tonight, or possibly tomorrow, just to get more direct feedback on the distance learning. Please fill that out. We're trying to learn from it. We obviously understand that this is not the ideal way to learn, but we also want to make sure that it's the most productive possible for all the different ages. So please give us that meaningful feedback. It matters a lot to us. And we appreciate it. This is an incredible, incredible community. You've seen the messages that have gone out around our desire and the community's desire to help each other. I'm tremendously inspired when we send those things out. We get some people reaching out to us and asking for help, and we get many people reaching out to us and saying, how can we help somebody else? What can I do? What can I do? And that's an amazing thing. And thank you to all of you for creating that kind of community where people know that the answer is always going to be yes. As long as we know that there's a need, there are people out there to make sure that that need is gracefully and in a dignified and modest way taken care of. I want to bring your attention to one thing. It's because people have asked me so many times. There's a Refuah Shlema list, which is a beautiful thing, and we ask anybody to add their names to the Refuah Shlema list. People in need of Refuah Shlema. I also feel like it might be getting a little bit jarring because that list is growing. And yes, there are people out there that are sick. Please know that this list, thank God, and shouldn't be and is not being vetted. These are people in the community and outside the community, and some need a very big refuah shlema and are really in serious and critical condition. Others, thank God, are going to be okay, and we hope they're okay very, very soon. But I just want to draw that to your attention. Obviously, this is, we, thank God, are connected to many, many communities, and any name that goes on that list is, no questions asked, is added to that list. But I don't want people to think that within our small or relatively small community, that the list is growing the way that it looks like. Of course, all the tefillot matter for all, and we will continue to update that list as we should and as we can. We are going to try, and we are trying to be kind of consistent. So Monday nights at 8 seems to be our town hall slot. We'll do this again next Monday night and try to bring you meaningful, substantive, inspiring information, that can help bring us together in different kinds of ways. And that's pretty much the slot. There are also lots of different community happenings that you get in emails. We put out calendars, and I hope that you're just availing yourself of those things so that we can get through all of this together. Tonight at 9:15 is a shiur to commemorate the Shloshim of Marilyn Sofer, Zichra Livracha. Marilyn was a pillar of our Riverdale community, SAR community. Means a lot to so many of us. And Rabbi Et Shalom from the West Coast will be giving a shiur just at 9:15. That's in your emails, and if you can join that shiur, please do. I know that would be meaningful. First of all, you'll learn something, and it'll be meaningful to her family and to the entire community. A couple of questions that I'm going to ask Rabbi Hartstark or Rabbi Kroll to respond if there's something that I'm missing. Some of the questions, there are about 50 questions. They were all for the doctors, but there were a couple around the school. Will it be safe to return to school? Right now, April 20th is the official day. Obviously, this is April, as you just heard from Medina, April 20th is a world away. If, February 20th was not that long ago. April 20th is a world away, and we will continue to update you as much as we can, and to do what needs to be done to keep everybody safe. The school building is not open. Well, let me explain. School building is open. There's security at the school, and if somebody needs to come get something from the school, you can go there. This is for faculty and for parents as well. If you need to pick something up, you can pick it up, but it's not open for business, so nobody's going to be spending time in the school. If you need to be there to get something, 8 to 4 on work days and 8 to 2 on Fridays, it will be open. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Again, thank you to Tina Lerner for sending us the information about the Rockefeller Study. Please look at your emails if you can. If you are willing to join that study, that would be helpful. There have been requests. We've sent these requests for people who do have information about testing. If they were tested, if they tested positive, we ask that you share that with us so that we have the information in case it becomes necessary or important for us to share that with, again, with confidentiality, just to get an understanding of what's going on within the community if that becomes relevant to decisions that we need to make. And that is pretty much it for now. It does sounds like Dr. Rocco wants to say something, which is great. Everyone's going to stay on to listen to you, Dr. Rocco. That's fine. And thank you again to everybody, and thank you to Adina for speaking to us tonight. It means a tremendous amount to us. Go ahead.
So just two quick things that I just thought of. In regards to shopping or ordering, whenever you do it for 2 weeks. Don't go out and be like, oh, I just need this one thing. You're doing something, it has a little risk associated with it, so bulk up. And that's if you're ordering in or if you are going out yourselves to get something. So just get bulk so you don't have to do it frequently. So I was driving home on Friday from work, and I saw some trees starting to bud. My initial, excitement was like, springtime. And then I was like, oh, asthma. So for all those who suffer from asthma or have seasonal allergies, this is not the time that you want to be scrambling to get your medicines and, oh my gosh, I didn't get them, I have to go to the hospital. So please now order your medications, contact your doctor so that you have the medications at home. Because going to the hospital now, because you're wheezing a little bit, not a good time. So make sure you have your medications at home. And I'm gonna ask for a plea, because using a nebulizer in the hospital is actually a greater risk for the hospital staff. So even though we have transitioned almost everyone to using the pumps at home for lots of good reasons, I'm gonna ask that you ask your doctors to get the nebulizer if you have it, because we need the pumps in the hospital more desperately now than we have before. So when I discharge someone from the hospital, I'm discharging them only with the nebulizer. When the season passes, when we're done with COVID, we'll go back to MDIs, which are better, and you should use them. Those are the puffers. But the message for now is, if you suffer from seasonal allergies, be on top of it. If you are told that you should take a maintenance medication every single day, take it every single day so you don't get in trouble. That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rabbi Hartstock, anything that in the questions that you wanted to respond to before we close?
Mute.
Yeah.
No, nothing that stands out. I think that we're okay.
Okay. Thank you all. Laila Tov. See you soon. Thank you very much.